The sky over the ruined outpost was dark and broken. Ash and smoke mixed in the air as strong winds pushed through the destroyed metal structures. Kane, a human soldier in a black military jacket, walked carefully through the mess, holding his rifle close. He had been sent here to check an old base for supplies and survivors. But so far, he had only found silence until he heard the noise. A soft metallic clang came from behind a pile of wreckage. Too small to be a soldier, but too loud to be the wind. Kane raised his rifle and moved slowly, his boots crunching debris underfoot. Then he saw her. A girl definitely not human, with pale blue skin and long silver hair. Her body thin and covered in cuts and bruises. She froze when she saw him, her glowing eyes wide with fear. She didn't speak, but her hands trembled as she backed away. Kane didn't shoot. Instead, he lowered his weapon and said calmly, "It's okay, I won't hurt you." The alien girl didn't answer, but she stopped moving. Her stomach growled so loudly it echoed through the ruins. She was starving. Kane saw the desperation in her eyes, the same look he had seen in war refugees. "Come," he said softly, pointing toward the shelter bunker nearby. "It's safe in there." She hesitated, then followed him, slowly, like a frightened animal. Inside the shelter, it was warmer, and Kane gave her a thermal blanket and a protein bar. She ate like she hadn't touched food in days, hands shaking, crumbs falling everywhere. Kane looked at her and asked, "What's your name?" She pointed at herself and whispered, "Lisari." He nodded. "I'm Kane." They sat in silence for a while, the wind outside howling louder than ever. Kane left briefly to fix the outpost's broken antenna. Needing to call for extraction, while he was gone, Lisari explored the bunker, her bare feet silent on the metal floor. In a back room filled with crates and sealed tubes, she found a strange glowing bottle. It was half full of red liquid, swirling like fire, and it pulsed with warmth. The writing on it was in English, and she couldn't read it, but her hunger was still there, and her body ached with cold. She sniffed the bottle, and the scent was strange but sweet. One small sip, she thought, just to feel better. She tilted the bottle and drank, just a little. Within seconds, something was wrong. Her chest tightened, her skin flushed hot, and her heartbeat raced. She fell to her knees, gasping, as heat surged through her body. She clutched her stomach and groaned, her muscles twitching, her breath ragged. The warmth was spreading down her spine, through her limbs, into every cell. Then the door opened, and Kane walked in. He dropped the toolbox when he saw her. "Lisari?" He rushed forward. "What happened?" She looked up at him with glowing eyes, her lips trembling. "I drank it," she whispered, pointing at the bottle, now rolling on the floor. Kane picked it up and froze. The label read, "Serum X09, Human Combat Enhancement. Not safe for non-humans. Do not ingest." His blood turned cold. "Oh no," he muttered. "No, no, no." Lisari crawled toward him, her breathing shallow, her hands shaking as they reached for him. "Kane, make it stop, please." But her voice carried a strange echo now, like two tones layered on top of each other. She smelled different too, like something sweet and magnetic. And it hit him hard. Kane stumbled back, suddenly dizzy, as if her presence was pushing against his own senses. He pulled out his scanner, quickly checking her vitals. Her temperature was rising fast, blood pressure unstable, and her hormone levels completely out of control. "Damn it," he whispered. "You drank a military-grade serum. It's meant to boost human combat instincts, rage, aggression, and physical drive," Lisari whimpered, clutching herself tightly, her knees drawn to her chest. "I didn't know. I was cold. I was hungry." Kane took a deep breath, trying to steady himself as her scent kept clouding his mind. "I know," he said. "It's not your fault." He needed to get her into containment safe, warm, and isolated before the full effects kicked in. He reached for her gently, and she flinched, but didn't resist. Her skin was burning to the touch, and her breathing grew heavier the closer he got. "I'll help you," he said, lifting her carefully in his arms, as Her head rested against his chest. She whispered, "Kane, stay close. Don't leave me." The red light from the bottle flickered in the corner, casting long shadows on the wall, and far above them, a silent signal began to blink from the antenna tower, alerting someone somewhere that the serum had been activated. They didn't know it yet, but this was only the beginning. Lazari's body wasn't just reacting, it was changing. Lazari lay on the small cot, wrapped in a blanket soaked with sweat. Her skin, once pale blue, now glowed faintly with a soft red hue. Every breath she took was shaky, and her body twitched like it couldn't find rest. Kane sat nearby, watching helplessly, his hand clutching the empty serum bottle. He had contacted command for medical help, but they were hours away, and the signal had been weak. Now, the only thing he could do was keep her safe and stop her body from burning itself out. The serum inside her was meant to unlock a human's hidden strength in battle. But Lazari wasn't human. Her biology was fighting the serum and surrendering to it at the same time. Suddenly, she gasped, eyes flying open. Her pupils were wide, glowing like twin stars, and her breathing sped up. "Kane," she whispered, voice hoarse. "Why does it feel like I'm melting inside?" Kane moved closer, trying to calm her. "You're overheating," he said, checking her pulse. "That stuff, it messes with the body's drive, heat levels, everything." She grabbed his hand suddenly, gripping it so tightly it made him wince. "I can't stop thinking about you," she said, tears welling in her eyes. "Your scent, your voice, it's like I'm pulled to you." Kane's heart skipped. The serum had begun its real work, boosting her senses, locking her instincts to the strongest presence near her. That was him. Her body was treating him not just as safety, but something deeper. "I feel like I'll die if you leave me," she whispered, ashamed. "But I don't want this." "It's not real," Kane nodded slowly. "I know," he said softly. "It's the serum, not your heart." But even he could feel it, her touch, her scent. The warmth between them, it was getting to him too. He stood up and moved back, trying to cool the room, turning on old ventilation systems that still worked. But the real problem wasn't the air temperature. It was what was happening inside her. He opened the outpost's archive files and searched for any notes on the serum, anything that might explain how to calm it. The data was old, half-corrupted, but he found a line that made his blood run cold. Subject enters heat phase, bonding if exposed to serum while emotionally focused on a specific target. Lazari wasn't just reacting, she was bonding with him. He turned toward her slowly, and she was staring, watching every move. Her body still trembling, her breathing shallow. "Kane," she said again, voice barely above a whisper. "Help me, please." He walked over, kneeling beside her, trying to keep calm. "Okay," he said. "We're going to try something." He brought a cold cloth and placed it gently on her forehead. She closed her eyes and let out a soft breath, her body easing a little. Then without warning, her hand reached up and touched his chest, fingers trembling. "I feel safer when I touch you," she said. "But also hotter." Kane didn't pull away, but he didn't move closer either. "Lazari," he said slowly, "your mind is still yours. You can fight it, even if your body's confused." She looked at him, her eyes now filled with both fear and shame. "What if I lose?" she asked. "What if the serum turns me into something I'm not?" Kane reached out and placed his hand gently over hers. "Then I'll remind you who you are," he said, "and I won't leave your side, no matter what." She blinked rapidly, tears sliding down her cheeks. "No one's ever said that to me," she whispered. "Not even my own kind." Outside, lightning cracked the sky, but in the shelter, the two stayed locked in silence. Lazari finally relaxed a little, her breathing slowing, though her skin still shimmered with heat. Kane stayed close, sitting beside her through the night, watching her body continue its strange transformation. Her muscles twitched now and then. Her heartbeat occasionally doubled, but she stayed conscious, aware, and slowly regaining control. And Then something strange happened. Her hand glowed, just for a second, and a pulse of light spread between her and Kane. They both looked at each other, confused. The serum wasn't just changing her body. It was connecting them on a level Kane didn't understand yet. As Lisari drifted into a light sleep, she whispered one last thing before darkness took her mind. "If I survive this, don't let me be alone." Kane nodded slowly, even though she couldn't see it. He would stay, no matter what came next, because something inside him was changing too. Kane carried Lisari down a narrow metal staircase, deeper into the old military shelter. Her body felt warmer than fire, yet she shivered in his arms like ice lived under her skin. He didn't speak, and she didn't ask questions. They both knew. Words wouldn't fix what was happening inside her. This base had been built decades ago during the first war against alien threats. It had emergency rooms underground, thick blast doors, old med beds, and an auto-lockdown system still running on backup power. Kane kicked open the rusted door to the med chamber and gently placed Lisari onto a padded table. The room hissed softly as it adjusted the temperature and sealed shut behind them. No signals could escape now, no transmissions, no interference. This was a lockdown shelter, and for the first time in hours, Kane knew she was safe from the world outside. But what about the world inside her? Lisari's eyes blinked open, half-conscious, glowing faintly in the dim light. She tried to sit up but winced as her body tensed again. Kane helped her stay down, whispering, "It's okay. Don't push yourself." Her voice cracked. "Everything still burns." Kane activated the med-scan panel, and the screen lit up with red warnings. Her vitals were fluctuating, unstable heart rhythm, extreme hormone spikes, and bursts of neural activity off the charts. The serum was pushing her instincts to the surface: survival, bonding, and something deeper Kane couldn't quite name. Suddenly, Lisari grabbed his arm, her strength surprising even him. "Kane," she said, eyes wide with panic. "I smell you." He froze. "What? You?" "Your scent," she whispered. "It calls to me, like I belong next to it." Kane took a step back, heart pounding. The serum wasn't just affecting her strength or temperature. It was rewriting her instincts, pairing her chemically to him. Nearest male figure her body could recognize. "I don't want this to control me," she said, tears sliding from her glowing eyes. "Please don't leave me alone with it." "I won't," Kane said firmly, moving close again but careful not to touch her skin. "We're going to get through this." Lisari looked down at herself and whispered, "I feel like my body's becoming something else." As she spoke, faint red patterns formed under her skin like energy veins, glowing gently before fading. The serum was changing her on a cellular level. But what scared Kane more was the soft noise from the security panel, above a silent proximity alarm. Someone, or something, was approaching the upper levels of the outpost. He tapped into the camera feed and saw them. 4 figures in dark armor, faces hidden, weapons drawn, mercenaries. Not from the army, not from the council. These were scavengers for hire. The kind who looted battlefields for tech and test subjects. They had picked up the signal the serum bottle sent when opened. They were here for Lisari. Kane swore under his breath and activated full lockdown, sealing every door with steel layers. Mercs wouldn't get in easily, but time was short. He turned to Lisari, who had heard the alert too. "They're coming?" she asked weakly. "Yes," Kane replied. "But they'll never touch you, not while I'm breathing." He handed her a shock baton and said, "If anything gets past me, use this." Lisari shook her head. "I don't want to hurt anyone." Her hands trembled as she took the baton anyway. Kane checked his rifle, loaded a fresh power cell, and walked to the main hallway door. He looked back and said softly, "Lock this room behind me. Only open it if I give the code." Lisari sat up, still weak, but nodded. "What's the code?" He gave her a small, sad smile. "My name, whispered by someone who trusts me." As the door closed between them, Lisari stared at it, heart racing. Outside, Kane moved fast through the shadowed hall, every step echoing like a drumbeat of war. The Mercenaries had broken into the main hangar already, their boots crunching over ash and dirt. They spoke in low voices, scanning every signal trail. Moving toward the heat source that was Lissari, Kane watched from behind a pillar, silent, patient. He wasn't the strongest soldier in the galaxy, but right now, he was the only shield standing between a burning alien girl and the dark things that hunted her. Back in the med chamber, Lissari pressed her forehead to the cold wall, feeling her skin cool just a little. She whispered something barely audible to herself. "Kane, come back." And somewhere deep in her body, a glow answered. She wasn't sure what she was becoming, but she knew one thing clearly: she didn't want to become it without him. Asterisk. The upper floor of the ruined outpost shook slightly as heavy. Footsteps echoed down the corridor. 4 mercenaries in black armor moved in a diamond formation, their visors glowing red. Each of them carried weapons that hummed with deadly energy. The leader, a broad-shouldered brute with a skull insignia on Kwong. His chest plate held up a scanner. "This is the place," he said. His voice sharp through the coms. The signal came from here. The serum was used. They had tracked it for days across the star belt, following rumors of a forbidden human combat fluid. But this time, it wasn't just about money. Someone had paid extra for the creature who drank it. Down below, Kane stood behind the last sealed hallway gate, eyes fixed on the motion sensors. They were here, and they were too well armed to fight head-on. He had minutes, maybe less, before they broke through the main floor. Inside the med chamber, Lissari sat on the cot, curled up tightly, her skin still glowing with soft pulses of red. Every few seconds, her body would twitch, her heart race, and strange thoughts would flash into her mind, memories she had never lived. Human instincts, combat knowledge, even feelings she didn't recognize. Desire, protection, rage, all mixed together like fire and ice. She clutched her head, whispering to herself, "It's not real. It's not me." But deep inside, something was waking up. Something stronger than her fears. Back upstairs, Kane waited as the mercs reached the blast door. The leader slammed a device onto the wall, an old plasma cutter meant for breaching bunkers. Kane raised his rifle and whispered, "Come on then." The lock hissed as sparks flew, steel turning red and soft. Then boom, the door exploded outward, sending smoke and dust everywhere. Kane fired first, catching the first merc in the leg, sending him crashing to the floor. "Contact!" shouted one of them. "He's armed." But Kane didn't fall back. He fired again, then ran to another corner, tossing a flash grenade as he moved. Light blinded them for 3 seconds, just enough to take out a second one. But then the leader got a clear shot and blasted around into Kane's side. He hit the wall hard, sliding down, blood already soaking his shirt. His vision blurred as he crawled backward, gasping. The merc leader stepped into view, pointing a charged pistol at Kane's face. "Where's the girl?" he growled. "Tell me, and maybe I won't fry your bones." Kane smirked through the pain. "You're not gonna touch her." He tapped a switch on his wrist, locking down the lower levels even tighter. The merc chuckled. "Stupid human." Then everything changed. A high-pitched humming sound filled the air, followed by a sudden boom from below. Metal floor glowed red, and a section burst open as Lissari jumped through it, her eyes burning with light. Her skin shimmered like molten silver, and her body had shifted stronger, taller, her muscles sharp under her alien form. The air around her shimmered with raw energy. The mercs turned, stunned. "What the hell is that?" one shouted. Before anyone could blink, she moved fast as lightning, a blur of motion. She punched the nearest merc in the chest, shattering his armor and sending him flying. The others fired, but their shots missed or bounced off a glowing field. Around her body, Kane watched through blurred eyes, amazed. Lissari wasn't just fighting, she was winning. But the serum's energy inside her was unstable. Every move she made pushed her closer to collapse. She took down a third merc with a sweeping kick, then turned to the leader, who aimed and fired direct hit to her shoulder. She screamed, stumbled, and for a moment, The light around her faded. The merc stepped forward to finish her off. But Kane, barely able to move, picked up his fallen rifle and fired one shot straight to the merc's chest. He collapsed, his weapon clattering on the floor. Silence followed thick. Heavy silence. Lizari dropped to her knees beside Kane, her breath coming fast, skin flickering with fading light. "You okay?" she whispered, voice shaking. Kane smiled weakly. "I've had worse first dates," she laughed, then suddenly fell forward into his arms, unconscious. Her body had burned through too much energy too fast. He held her tightly, whispering, "You saved us. You saved me." As the emergency lights blinked on and off, Kane leaned back against the wall, mercs down. Shelter intact, but both of them barely holding on. The fight was over, but the serum had changed everything. And Kane knew this was no longer about survival. It was about what she was becoming, and whether he could stay close enough to protect her, without losing himself in the process. The med chamber lights flickered as Kane dragged Lizari's unconscious body back into the sealed room. Her skin was burning hot again, but this time, the glow came from deep within, not just surface heat, but something pulsing beneath. He placed her gently on the cot, wiped blood from her forehead, and whispered, "You're safe now. Just rest." Kane collapsed beside her, clutching his bleeding side, breathing hard. The adrenaline from the battle had faded, and now only pain remained. Still, he refused to close his eyes. If she woke again in panic, he wanted to be the first. Face she saw, moments passed, maybe minutes, maybe hours, until she stirred. Her fingers twitched, her chest rising and falling rapidly. Then her eyes opened, brighter than before, golden red orbs glowing with a soft, dangerous shimmer. "Kane," she whispered, her voice full of emotion. "Are you hurt?" He smiled weakly, a little. "But you should see the other guys." She sat up slowly, placing her hands over his injury. A strange heat traveled from her palms into his skin warmth. Not pain, spreading like waves. The wound stopped bleeding, and Kane gasped softly. "What are you doing?" "I don't know," she whispered, "but it feels like I'm giving something back." The serum had changed her body, but it was doing more than giving power. It was merging her biology with something new. She wasn't just reacting anymore, she was evolving. Suddenly, the chamber lights shut off, followed by the sound of deep humming. Emergency power had reached its limit, and the shelter fell into near darkness. A soft glow filled the space, not from machines, but from her. Her body gave off light. Now not fire, but something softer, something alive. She stood slowly, taller than before, her limbs steady, her posture strong. Kane stared at her in silence, a mix of awe and concern building inside him. "Lizari," he said quietly, "how do you feel?" She turned to him, her hair flowing like silver threads, eyes fixed on his. "I feel calm," she replied, "but it's like something is pressing against my skin from the inside, asking to be released." "Released?" Kane asked, worried. "Like an energy?" She nodded, placing a hand over her chest. "It's building. It wants to come out, but I'm afraid." Kane sat up slowly, breathing carefully through his healing ribs. "I'm not afraid," said softly. "Because you're still you." Lizari looked at him, eyes full of conflict. "What if I lose control again?" "Then I'll be here to remind you who you are," he answered. "Every time." That's when the humming came back louder this time, from the walls, the ceiling, even the floor. Kane realized the outpost's hidden systems had reactivated sensors. Weapons, scanners, something had triggered a deeper layer of the base. And then the voice came, old, robotic, emotionless. Cross-species bond detected. Activating unleashing protocol. Kane's eyes widened. Unleashing what? Before they could move, the chamber doors locked tighter. A soft gas hissing into the room. Lizari gasped, her skin flaring brighter, body shivering violently. "No. Not now," she cried, falling to her knees. Kane rushed to her side, rapping, his arms around her even as her skin sparked with energy. "What's happening?" He shouted, "Talk to me!" Lasari screamed, not in pain, but from the pull of power breaking through every cell in her body. Her back arched, light erupted from her fingertips, and strange patterns began forming on her arms, lines, symbols. Like a forgotten language, Kane shielded his eyes, holding her tighter, whispering, "It's okay. You're not alone." Then everything stopped. No light, no sound, no pain. Just Lasari, kneeling on the floor, glowing softly, breathing calmly. When she looked up again, her eyes had changed. They were no longer scared, no longer confused. She had full control, Kane, she said gently. "I think I've finished changing." He looked at her, stunned. "What does that mean?" She walked toward him, slower now, every movement calm and graceful. "It means," she said, kneeling beside him, "I'm not what I was, and I'm not what they tried to make me. I'm something else. Something new." She placed her glowing hand over his heart and whispered, "And you're the only one who believed in me while I changed." Kane swallowed hard, lost for words. A part of him wanted to fear what she had become, but a greater part, stronger, only saw the same. Lasari, more herself than ever, outside the chamber, systems were coming online, picking up her presence, her energy signature. Others would come, not mercenaries, but governments, armies, scientists. They would want her, fear her, try to own her. But Kane already knew the truth. She was not a weapon, she was a choice, his choice. And now that she had unleashed herself, the real story was only just beginning. For the first time in hours, the shelter was quiet. No alarms, no gunfire, no shaking walls. Only soft breathing and the low hum of power trying to return. Kane lay on a bed of spare blankets in the corner, still sore but no longer bleeding. His eyes followed Lasari as she moved across the room. Silent and graceful, her body now calm. She had changed completely. But it wasn't just her glowing skin or the energy that lived beneath it. It was her presence, more centered, more confident. The fear in her eyes was gone, replaced by something steady, something human. She placed a steaming cup in his hand and whispered, "It's warm soup from your rations." He raised an eyebrow. "Didn't know you knew how to cook." "I didn't," she smiled softly. "But it's just powder and hot water, right?" Kane chuckled, sipping slowly, his body grateful for warmth and silence. Lasari sat beside him on the floor, pulling her knees close, wrapping her arms around them. Her skin shimmered gently in the dim light like moonlight on still water. Kane looked at her quietly, then asked the question that had burned in his mind for hours. "How much of you is still you?" She didn't answer right away. Then she looked up, her golden eyes reflecting his face. "I don't know," she said gently, "but it's not as scary as I thought." She placed her hand over her chest. "Everything I was, my memories, my feelings, even my fears, they're still inside. But now they sit beside something else. Something new, like a second voice. Not a monster," she added quickly. "More like instinct." Kane nodded slowly, understanding more than she expected. "It wants me to protect, to bond, to choose," she whispered. "And it chose you." He blinked, startled. "Me?" She gave a faint smile. "I felt it when you touched me while I was unconscious. Your voice anchored me. Your presence helped me fight it. I don't know how or why, but the serum amplified our connection. I don't think I can undo it." Kane's heart pounded. Not out of fear, but out of something deeper, warmer. He looked into her eyes. "I'm not going anywhere." She breathed in, slowly, as if testing the air for danger. Then exhaled and leaned her head against his shoulder. For a few long moments, neither of them spoke. The war outside, the chase, the changes, all of it faded. In that small pocket of quiet, it was just them. But silence never lasted in a world like theirs. The comms panel crackled suddenly, spitting static. Kane looked up quickly, crawling over to check it. The screen flickered to life. Barely holding signal, a voice came through, faint but clear. "This is Command Unit 4. Responding to beacon transmission. Is anyone alive in Outpost Delta 17? Kane pressed the mic. This is Corporal Kane. One survivor, plus one altered subject. The line was quiet for a moment. Then a voice said, "You're not authorized to engage with the test subject." "Soldier." "She's not a test subject," Kane snapped. "She's a person." Another pause. Then a colder voice replaced the first one. "Stand by, extraction team is inbound. Priority Alpha. You are ordered to contain the subject until retrieval." Kane shut the comms off, his jaw tight. He turned to Lissari, who had already heard everything. "They're coming for me," she said, softly. "Yes," Kane replied. "But not for the right reasons." Lissari stood, her form glowing slightly. "Again, not from panic this time, but from decision. I won't go back to being a number," she said, "not after becoming someone." Kane walked up to her and looked into her eyes. "Then we don't wait here," he said. "We leave together." "But they'll track the signal," she said. "They'll follow us." Kane smiled. "Let them try." He tapped the side of the shelter console. Typing in a command, a countdown began. Self-destruct sequence initiated. Lissari's eyes widened. "You'd destroy this place?" He looked at her without hesitation. "They don't get to own you. Not your DNA, not your body, not your story. And what if I lose control again?" She asked quietly, "What if the serum pushes me too far someday?" Kane reached for her hand and said, "Then I'll be the one holding your hand when you come back." Tears shimmered in her eyes, not from fear, but from something she hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. As the countdown ticked lower, they packed only what they needed. They walked up the steps slowly, past broken walls, past fallen enemies, past who they used to be. The storm had stopped. The sky above was clear, and 2 moons lit the land in silver. Together, they disappeared into the darkness, not as soldier and subject, but as 2 lives bound by something deeper than blood, something no scanner could measure. And as the shelter exploded behind them, the galaxy had no idea that something powerful and unstoppable had just walked free. The next morning came quietly. No alarms, no battles, no walls ready to collapse. Just early sunlight washing over cracked earth and the soft footprints of 2 travelers moving through the valley. Kane and Lissari walked side by side, their clothes dusty, their bodies tired, but their spirits firm. They had escaped the outpost, escaped the mercenaries, escaped the experiment, but they had not escaped the tension above them. A sleek black aircraft hovered silently, dropping lower with every second. Kane stopped walking and placed a hand on Lissari's arm. She looked up and nodded. "They found us." The ship landed ahead of them, kicking up wind and dust. Its door slid open, and 3 figures stepped out, military officials in white and gray uniforms. One of them was a woman with a sharp voice and eyes that studied Lissari like a lab specimen. "I'm Director Salen," she said, walking forward. "You're the one who ingested the forbidden serum." Lissari didn't reply, her eyes calm but unreadable. Kane stepped slightly in front of her. "Protective even now. We're not going back with you," he said firmly. "You misunderstand," the woman said, smiling coldly. "We're not here to capture. We're here to cure." She motioned to a case behind her. Inside it, a silver injector rested inside blue foam. "This is the antidote," she said. "It will remove the serum's effects from her system entirely, restore her biology, return her to what she was." Kane's heart beat faster, but he stayed silent. He turned to Lissari, whose expression didn't change. The woman stepped closer. "You've become something unstable, dangerous even, but this can fix it," Lissari finally spoke, her voice quiet but clear. "Fix what?" The director blinked. "Your transformation." Lissari looked down at her hands, the faint golden veins still softly glowing beneath her skin. "I'm not broken," she said, her voice stronger now. "I'm not a problem to be solved." The woman frowned. "The serum was never meant for your kind. It's rewriting your DNA. You don't know how much damage it could cause." "I do," Lissari replied calmly, "and I chose to carry it." The director turned to Kane. "And you? You're supporting this?" You understand the risk? She could become unpredictable, even violent. Kane looked at Lisari and smiled. She's more in control than any soldier I've ever known, he said. And she saved lives, mine included. You'd let her walk around like this, a biological weapon? The woman snapped. No, Kane replied. I'd let her walk around like a person. Lisari stepped forward now, shoulders tall, voice unshaken. You want to erase what I've become because you're afraid of what it means. But I'm not afraid anymore, she said, looking at Kane. Because someone saw me when I didn't even know who I was. The director's face tightened, her voice cold. Then you are refusing the antidote? I am, Lisari said without pause. Because this body, this power, this mind, they are mine now. I'm not going to give that up so you can sleep better. Silence fell for a long moment. Only wind moving through the valley. Then the woman sighed and gave a nod, signaling her guards to stand down. Very well, she said. But understand this, your choice comes with consequences. She turned back toward the ship, adding, others won't be so kind. The ship lifted into the air and disappeared over the cliffs, leaving Kane and Lisari standing under the rising sun. He looked at her and asked quietly, You sure? She smiled faintly. I've never been more sure. Kane sat down on a rock and exhaled deeply, looking out across the valley. So, what now? Lisari stood beside him, sunlight dancing across her skin, her presence more radiant than anything. Around we live, she said. We learn, we fight if we must, but we do it together. He grinned. That Serum gave you poetic lines too. She laughed softly, then sat beside him, leaning her shoulder against his. They stayed like that for a long while. No orders, no sirens, no chaos, just breathing, just being. And somewhere far beyond the sky, others were watching, calculating, deciding what to do next. But Kane and Lisari didn't care. They had already made their choice. They had already written their story, and it would not be erased. Not by fear, not by science, not by anyone who didn't understand what it meant to be changed and still loved. Because Lisari didn't need an antidote. She had something stronger. She had freedom.